Queen Alara sat quietly by the large window, looking out over the vast glittering city of Valoria. Her heart was heavy, filled with sadness. Many years had passed since her daughter Princess Lyra disappeared on a mission to explore new worlds. Every day since then, the queen had hoped that somehow her child would return. Alara sighed softly, her eyes moving to the skies. She remembered the day clearly, as if it had just happened. Lyra, young and full of curiosity, had been eager to learn about other civilizations. She had convinced her mother that visiting unknown planets would strengthen their kingdom, offering new knowledge and allies. Alara had been nervous, but her daughter's excitement had warmed her heart. On that terrible day, Alara had watched Lyra board the spaceship, waving happily before it launched into the sky. Days turned into weeks, and weeks became months. Then, one day, the news had arrived, a distress signal, followed by silence. Rescue ships were sent, searching endlessly, but found only fragments of the crashed vessel. Everyone had believed Lyra was gone forever. The kingdom had mourned alongside their queen, sharing in her grief. Valoria had lost a beloved princess, and Alara had lost her only child. Though life continued, the queen never felt whole again. Part of her always longed to see Lyra's smiling face once more. Far away, beyond the familiar stars of Valoria, Princess Lyra opened her eyes slowly. Groaning in pain, she lay in the wreckage of her spaceship, her surroundings strange and frightening. Her head hurt, and when she tried to move, a sharp pain shot through her leg. She was injured and alone. Through the shattered window, she saw tall, unfamiliar trees and heard the strange cries of animals. Panic rose in her chest, but Lyra knew she had to stay calm. Slowly, she gathered the strength to crawl out of the broken ship, taking care not to injure herself further. Night was coming quickly, the sky turning darker. Lyra shivered, realizing she needed shelter. The woods around her were dense, filled with shadows and unfamiliar noises. She felt scared and lost, but knew she could not stay where she was. With difficulty, she limped toward a small cave she noticed nearby. Inside the cave, Lyra made herself as comfortable as possible, pulling broken branches and leaves around her to keep warm. She felt incredibly alone and wondered if anyone would ever find her. Tears filled her eyes, but she wiped them away, determined to stay brave. On the second day, Lyra ventured from the cave to find food and water. She moved carefully, her leg aching with every step. She discovered berries and a small stream nearby, feeling relieved as she drank deeply from the fresh water. As she explored, Lyra tried to remember everything her mother had taught her about survival. She knew she had to be resourceful and clever to stay alive. Days passed, each bringing its own set of challenges. Lyra grew stronger, but felt terribly lonely. One morning, while picking fruit, she heard a noise. Her heart raced in fear. Quickly, she hid behind a tree and peeked carefully around it. A young man, clearly human, was walking slowly through the trees, examining the ground carefully. He looked kind and gentle, but Lyra was still cautious. The human stopped suddenly, noticing the footprints she had left. He called out softly, his voice gentle and curious. "Hello? Is anyone there?" he asked. Lyra hesitated. She had never met a human before and was unsure what to do. But something about his voice made her feel safe. Slowly, she stepped from her hiding spot. Watching him carefully, the young man's eyes widened with surprise when he saw her. He took a cautious step forward and smiled gently. "My name is Jake," he said softly. "Are you hurt? Can I help you?" Lyra nodded slowly, feeling her fear fade slightly. Jake moved closer, noticing her injured leg. Carefully, he reached out a hand, offering support. "Come with me," Jake said kindly. "I can help you heal and keep you safe." Trusting her instincts, Lyra allowed Jake to help her. Together, they slowly walked through the woods until they reached his small home, hidden safely away from the curious eyes of others. Jake treated her wounds gently, providing food and shelter. and offering friendship she desperately needed. Back on Valoria, Queen Alara remained by her window, whispering softly to the stars, hoping her daughter could somehow hear her words. "Lyra," she whispered gently, her voice filled with hope, "wherever you are, please know I love you, and I will never stop waiting for you to return." In Jake's small, hidden home, Lyra gradually recovered her strength. Jake cared for her with patience and kindness, carefully tending to her injured leg and ensuring she had enough to eat. Day by day, their friendship grew stronger as they learned more about each other. At first, communication was difficult. Lyra spoke a language Jake had never heard, and she knew only a little the language humans called English. But they both tried hard to understand each other, using gestures and simple words to bridge the gap. Slowly, they began to communicate more easily, sharing stories of their very different worlds. Lyra told Jake about her home planet Valoria. She described the glittering cities, the majestic castles, and the warm-hearted people who lived there. Jake listened with wide-eyed amazement, asking many questions. In return, Jake spoke about Earth, explaining its diverse landscapes, cultures, and animals. Lyra was fascinated by everything she heard, especially about Jake's dreams of exploring and discovering new things. As weeks turned into months, Lyra became accustomed to life on Earth. She and Jake built a comfortable routine. During the day, they carefully explored the nearby woods, avoiding places where other humans might spot Lyra. At night, they spent time talking and learning from each other. Jake showed Lyra how to cook simple Earth foods, and Lyra taught Jake about the stars and planets she had visited. Despite their happiness, Lyra often felt homesick. She missed her mother, Queen Alara, terribly. Sometimes she would sit quietly and look up at the night sky, wondering if her mother was also looking at the stars, thinking of her. Jake noticed her sadness and did his best to comfort her. Night, as they sat together by a small fire, Jake spoke softly. "Lyra, we need to find a way to get you home. Your mother must be worried." Lyra nodded slowly. "But how?" "My spaceship is destroyed." Jake smiled reassuringly. "We'll find a way. Humans are very good at fixing things and finding solutions." Feeling hopeful, they began searching for ways to send a signal back to Valoria or find another way home. Jake used a small, old computer in his home to research old reports of strange events and sightings. They found stories of other alien visitors and mysterious events, giving them hope that there might be forgotten technology somewhere nearby. Days passed as they searched carefully, staying cautious to avoid drawing attention. Finally, their patience paid off. Jake found information about an abandoned research center not far away, where strange sightings had occurred years ago. Perhaps, he thought, there would be something useful there. Early the next morning, Jake and Lyra set off to explore the old research center. They moved quietly and carefully, always alert to the possibility of danger. The facility was hidden deep within the woods, covered in vines and surrounded by broken fences. Inside, they found dusty hallways and rooms filled with old equipment. Most of it was broken or useless. But deep within the building, Lyra noticed something familiar. A strange glowing object sat quietly in a corner, covered in dust and debris. Her heart raced with excitement. "Jake, look," she said eagerly. "That device is from my world. It must have landed here long ago." Jake moved quickly, clearing away the dust and debris. Together, they examined the device. It was a communication beacon, damaged but still active. With careful adjustments and repairs, Lyra believed they could use it to send a signal back to Valoria. Excited by their discovery, Jake and Lyra carefully carried the beacon back to their hidden home. They spent the next several days repairing and adjusting the device. Jake learned quickly, guided by Lyra's instructions and his own cleverness. Finally, the device flickered to life, glowing softly in the darkness. "It works," Lyra whispered, her eyes shining with happiness and relief. She quickly programmed a message, hoping her mother would receive it. Back on Valoria, Queen Alara sat alone in her chambers, still carrying sadness in her heart. Suddenly, a small screen near her flashed. With light, and a message appeared. Her eyes widened in shock and joy as she read the words from her beloved daughter. Mother, I am alive. I am safe with a human named Jake. I am trying to find my way home. Wait for me. I love you. Queen Alara's tears fell freely as she read the message again and again, overwhelmed with relief and joy. For the first time in years, hope filled her heart docked back on Earth. Lyra and Jake sat together quietly, watching the stars. They knew their journey was far from over, but now they had hope and a clear goal. They would find a way back to Valoria, no matter what challenges lay ahead. After successfully sending the message to Valoria, Lyra and Jake felt new hope and determination. But they knew they still had a difficult journey ahead. They needed a way to return to Valoria, and that meant finding a spaceship that could travel. Through space safely, Jake began researching once more, using every resource available to him. He discovered that the abandoned research center they visited previously had been involved in secret experiments with alien technology. Jake believed there might be more hidden secrets there that could help them build a spaceship. Early one morning, they returned to the research center, ready to search for clues. The building was dark and quiet, filled with shadows. Carefully, they moved through each room, examining every piece of equipment they found. After hours of searching, Jake noticed a hidden panel on one of the walls. Excited, he pushed it gently. The wall slowly slid open, revealing a hidden staircase leading down into the darkness. "Let's go," Jake whispered, turning on his flashlight. Together, they cautiously descended the stairs, entering a large underground room. It was filled with strange machines and glowing screens. Lyra recognized the technology instantly. "Jake, this is Valorian technology," she exclaimed happily. They quickly began exploring the room, examining each device carefully. Lyra explained their functions, teaching Jake about each part. In the center of the room, they found something amazing, a small, advanced spaceship. It appeared almost intact, though dusty and neglected. "This could take us home," Lyra whispered. With excitement, Jake nodded eagerly. "We just need to repair it. We can do it together." Days turned into weeks as Jake and Lyra worked tirelessly on the spaceship. Jake brought tools from his home, and Lyra used her knowledge of Valorian technology to guide the repairs. They spent every moment fixing, testing, and adjusting each part as they worked. Their bond grew stronger. They trusted each other completely, sharing their dreams and fears openly. Lyra talked often of her mother, and Jake understood how deeply she wanted to see her again. Finally, the repairs were complete. The spaceship stood ready, shining brightly under the soft glow of the lights. "It's done," Jake said proudly, looking at Lyra. "Are you ready?" Lyra smiled warmly, her eyes filled with gratitude. "I'm ready, Jake. But first, I want to thank you. You saved my life. Without you, I could never have done this." Jake smiled back, gently squeezing her hand. "You helped me too, Lyra. I've learned so much from you. I never imagined I'd get the chance to explore the stars." They carefully prepared for their journey, gathering supplies and making sure the spaceship was safe and ready for flight. On the night before their departure, Jake took one last look around his small home. It had been his safe place, filled with memories, but now he knew he was ready for something bigger. The following morning, Jake and Lyra boarded the spaceship. Jake took a deep breath, feeling nervous but excited. Lyra sat calmly beside him, her hands steady on the controls. She entered the final coordinates for Valoria and turned to Jake. "Hold on," she said gently, smiling reassuringly. The spaceship hummed to life, slowly rising from the hidden chamber. Jake watched in awe as Earth slowly grew smaller beneath him. He felt a mix of sadness and excitement. Earth had always been his home, but now he was ready for new adventures. The journey through space was incredible but challenging. They faced strong storms, avoided space debris, and carefully navigated around other planets. Each obstacle tested their skills, but Jake and Lyra worked seamlessly together. overcoming every challenge. During quieter moments, Jake stared at the poor, endless stars, wondering about the new life waiting for him. Lyra would sit beside him, telling him stories of her childhood on Valoria. She spoke warmly of her people and her mother, the wise and kind Queen Alara. "My mother will like you," Lyra assured Jake confidently. "She is kind and fair." Jake smiled, hopeful but slightly nervous. "I hope so. I want to make a good impression." After several long days, Valoria finally appeared on their view screen, a beautiful planet filled with vibrant colors and sparkling cities. Jake felt his heart race with excitement and anticipation. "We're here," Lyra whispered joyfully, her eyes filled with tears. The spaceship gently descended toward the main city, and Jake watched in awe as the grand palace came into view. People below looked up in wonder as the spaceship landed smoothly. Queen Alara stood waiting, her heart pounding with emotion. As the ship's door opened, she saw her daughter step out, alive and healthy. Tears streamed down her face as she ran forward to embrace Lyra tightly. "I missed you," the queen whispered, holding her daughter close. Then she turned, noticing Jake standing nearby, uncertain and respectful. "Welcome to Valoria," Queen Alara said warmly, extending her hand. "You have brought my daughter back. For that, you will always be welcome here." Jake took her hand gently, feeling immense relief and happiness. He had found his place among the stars. Jake felt nervous as he stood beside Lyra, looking around at the grand palace of Valoria. Everything was bright and beautiful, more amazing than he had ever imagined. Queen Alara had welcomed him warmly, but Jake still saw curious eyes watching him closely. He was, after all, the first human ever to visit their world. In the days following their arrival, Jake learned quickly about life in Valoria. Lyra proudly introduced him to her favorite places. She showed him gardens filled with strange, glowing flowers, markets full of bustling activity, and towering libraries that held the history of Valoria's people. Everywhere they went, Valorians greeted them with kindness, but also curiosity. Jake soon discovered that not everyone was pleased with his presence. Some members of the royal court were suspicious of him. They whispered quietly behind his back, wondering if he could be trusted. Jake noticed their doubts, but he chose to remain friendly and respectful, determined to prove himself. One evening, Queen Alara invited Jake to dinner in the grand hall. The hall was huge, with tall ceilings and shimmering decorations. Jake sat beside Lyra, feeling slightly out of place among the well-dressed members of the royal court. Everyone seemed polite, yet cautious. During dinner, Queen Alara addressed Jake warmly. "Tell us, Jake, about your home. What is Earth like?" Jake carefully described Earth, speaking simply about its beauty and diversity. He mentioned mountains, oceans, forests, and cities filled with people from many cultures. He explained the good in humanity, their kindness, and their willingness to help each other. Queen Alara listened carefully, smiling with genuine interest. Many others nodded thoughtfully, clearly impressed by Jake's honest and open words. After dinner, as guests slowly left the hall, one advisor named Garon approached Queen Alara privately. He spoke quietly but seriously. "Your Majesty, we must be careful. We do not truly know this human. He could be dangerous." Alara sighed, understanding Garon's concern but believing in Jake's goodness. "We must give him a chance, Garon. He has returned my daughter to me." However, Garon was not convinced. "We must remain cautious," he insisted firmly. Days passed peacefully, yet Jake felt the weight of suspicion from some Valorians. Still, he continued to learn about their customs and traditions. Lyra helped him understand how to greet people politely, how to participate in their celebrations, and even how to ride their magnificent creatures, gentle beasts called Vans. One afternoon, Jake and Lyra were exploring the outskirts of the city when they heard loud noises nearby. Curious, they quickly went to see what was happening. Near the city gates, Valorian guards were struggling to stop a sudden attack by strange, fierce creatures from the wild lands beyond. Without hesitation, Jake joined the guards, determined to help. He grabbed a simple weapon and stood bravely beside them. Together, they fought fiercely, pushing the creatures back. Lyra quickly joined him, fighting courageously by his side. During the struggle, one of the creatures broke through and charged toward a group of frightened children. Jake moved swiftly, putting himself directly in its path. Using quick thinking and bravery, he managed to drive the creature away, saving the children. Once the danger was over, Jake was tired and bruised but unharmed. The Valorian guards looked at him with newfound respect and gratitude. Word of Jake's bravery quickly spread through the city. That evening, Queen Alara invited Jake to stand before the court. Her voice filled with pride, she declared, "Today, Jake showed us all his courage and kindness. He defended our people, risking himself without hesitation. We should be grateful to have such a friend among us." The crowd gathered in the court. Hall cheered warmly, acknowledging Jake's bravery. Even Garon, who had been doubtful, nodded in respectful acceptance. Jake felt relief and joy, knowing he had finally gained their trust. Afterward, Queen Alara spoke quietly to Jake, her eyes filled with appreciation. "Thank you, Jake. You have proven yourself beyond question. You are welcome here always." Lyra stood beside her mother, smiling warmly at Jake. She was proud of him, thankful that her people now fully accepted the friend who had saved her life. That night, Jake sat quietly in his room, looking out at Valoria's stars. He felt a deep sense of belonging he had never known before. Earth would always be his home, but Valoria had become part of his heart. He knew he had found a special place among its people. As Jake fell asleep, he felt happy and hopeful. He was excited about his future on Valoria, surrounded by friends and people who now truly accepted him. Jake walked through the beautiful palace halls, feeling peaceful. Life on Valoria had become more familiar to him now. The people smiled when they saw him, and he often heard kind words as he passed. He no longer felt like a stranger. He felt like a part of something special. Lyra stayed close to him, guiding him through Valorian traditions and teaching him about her people's beliefs and values. They often spent time in the palace gardens or visited the city's quiet lakes and hills. Jake loved learning from her, and she loved sharing her world with him. One day, while walking in the garden, Lyra spoke with a serious voice. "Jake, there's something we must do. The council wants to meet with you." "They have more questions." Jake nodded. "I'm ready. I want to show them that I'm here in peace." Later that day, they entered the tall council chamber. The room was wide, with long windows that let in golden light. 12 council members sat in a circle, wearing dark blue robes with silver lines. Their faces were calm, but Jake could feel their sharp eyes watching him. One of them, an older woman named Vina, spoke first. "Jake, you have shown bravery and kindness, but we must understand your true reason for being here. Do you wish to change Valoria, or only to help Lyra?" Jake stood tall and answered clearly. "I came to help Lyra. I stayed because I care about her, and I care about Valoria. I don't want to change anything. I want to learn and support your people." There was silence in the room for a moment. Then another council member, a younger man named Tovar, leaned forward. "And what do your people think of us? Would they welcome Valorians if we visited Earth?" Jake thought carefully. "Some might be afraid, but many would be curious and open. I believe Earth and Valoria could learn from each other, just like Lyra and I have." The council members looked at one another. Finally, Vina nodded. "Thank you, Jake. We will think on your words." Jake and Lyra left the chamber. Outside, she gave him a hopeful smile. "You spoke well. They respect honesty." Later that night, a celebration took place in the city. Lights floated in the sky, music played in the streets, and people danced. Queen Alara announced it as a day of peace and unity, honoring Jake's courage and the return of her daughter. Jake felt joy as he watched children laugh and families celebrate. He realized that he truly cared for these people. They had accepted him, and he wanted to give something back. In the weeks that followed, Jake started helping Valorians in many ways. He visited schools and shared knowledge about Earth science and inventions. He helped farmers use new tools to improve their crops. He even worked with Valorian healers to compare human and Valorian medicine. Slowly, even those who once doubted him began to change their minds. Garon, the advisor who had feared Jake the most, began speaking to him kindly. One day, Garon said, "You have done more than we expected. You have earned your place here." Jake thanked him with a smile. "I'm just doing what feels right." Lyra watched all of this with pride. She knew she had made the right choice in trusting Jake. He had brought not only her home, but also a new hope to Valoria. But not all was peaceful. Far beyond the city, in the shadows of the mountains, a small group of rebels plotted in secret. They believed Valoria should not open its arms to outsiders. They saw Jake as a threat to their way of life. One night, as Jake returned to the palace, after visiting a school, he heard footsteps behind him. Before he could react, masked figures appeared and surrounded him. "You don't belong here," one of them said. "Go back to your world." Jake raised his hands calmly. "I came in peace. I've helped your people. Why do you want to hurt me?" The rebels hesitated. Just then, Lyra and a group of palace guards arrived, called by a hidden alarm Jake had activated. The rebels tried to flee, but were quickly caught. Lyra ran to Jake. "Are you hurt?" "No," Jake said, breathing deeply. "I'm okay." The queen heard the attack and ordered the rebels to face justice. She then called a meeting of the council and the people. Standing before them, she spoke with strength. "This attack does not represent Valoria. Jake has shown us what courage, friendship, and kindness look like. We will not let fear guide our hearts. We must move forward together." The crowd cheered. Jake looked at Lyra and smiled. Despite the danger, he knew he had made a difference. Valoria had become a second home, and he would stand by it no matter what the future held. After the attack, security around the palace was made stronger. Guards stood watch at every gate, and no one was allowed in without being checked. Even though Jake was safe, Queen Alara did not want to take any risks. She had just gotten her daughter back, and now she had someone else to care for too. Jake tried not to show it, but he felt uneasy. He knew not everyone liked him, and he didn't want to cause more trouble for Lyra or the queen. Still, he continued his work, helping people across the city and visiting schools, farms, and clinics. One afternoon, while fixing a broken device at a village workshop, a group of children ran up to him. They handed him a drawing of him and Lyra, standing together with the words, "Thank you," written in Valorian script. Jake smiled and knelt down. "Thank you," he said softly. "This means a lot to me." Moments like this reminded him why he stayed. He wasn't just helping one person or trying to prove something anymore. He was part of something bigger. People needed him, and he wanted to be there for them. Lyra often watched Jake from a distance, feeling proud. She remembered the first day she met him on Earth, when he had helped her without asking anything in return. Now, he was helping her entire world. One evening, Queen Alara called Lyra to her private chambers. The queen looked tired, her eyes filled with worry. "Lyra," she began, "you know I trust Jake. He has proven himself many times, but there are still whispers in the court. Some think he is becoming too close to us, too important." Lyra frowned, "But he only wants to help. He's not trying to take power." "I know that," the queen said softly. "But politics are tricky. Jealousy grows easily in powerful places. We must protect Jake, not just from danger outside, but from those who smile in front of him and plot behind his back." Lyra nodded. "I'll watch over him. He's done so much for us. Now it's our turn." A few days later, a message arrived from one of Valoria's outer colonies. Strange energy signals had been detected in deep space. Some feared it might be a new threat. Others believed it could be ancient technology waking up again. The queen called a meeting. "We need someone to investigate," she said. "This could be dangerous. We cannot ignore it." Jake stepped forward. "I'll go. I've traveled through space before, and I want to protect this world too. Lyra looked at him with concern. It's risky, I know, he replied gently. But it's the right thing to do. The council agreed. A ship was prepared for the mission. It was small but fast, equipped with strong shields and scanning tools. Jake would not go alone. 2 Valorian guards, Mira and Thalon, would join him for safety. Before leaving, Jake spoke with Lyra under the stars. I'll be back soon, he promised. You better be, she replied with a small smile. Valoria needs you, I need you. The next morning, the ship rose into the sky. Jake sat at the controls, guided by coordinates sent from the outer colony. As they traveled through space, he talked with Myra and Thalon, learning more about Valorian defense systems and old legends of lost machines that drifted in the galaxy. After a long journey, they reached the source of the strange signal. What they found was shocking. A massive metal structure floated in the darkness. It looked ancient, with strange symbols across its surface. Jake and the team landed on the structure and explored its cold, silent halls. Lights flickered. Machines clicked and hummed, but no one was there. Suddenly, Mira found a control panel. She pressed a button, and a hologram appeared. It showed a map of the galaxy and an image of Valoria marked with a red circle. An old voice spoke in a forgotten language. Lyra had taught Jake enough to understand. Warning, system failure. Return sequence started. Target, Valoria. Jake's eyes widened. It's moving toward Valoria. This could be a danger. They rushed back to the ship and sent a warning to the Queen. We found something big, Jake said. It may have weapons. It's heading your way. Queen Alara received the message and called the defense teams into action. We must prepare. This is not a drill. Jake stayed behind for a while, trying to slow the structure's movement by damaging key systems. He worked quickly, planting small charges in weak areas. Myra and Thalon covered him. Finally, Jake ran back to the ship. That's all we can do. Let's go. As they escaped, small explosions shook the massive structure. It slowed down but did not stop completely. They had bought Valoria some time. Back on the planet, everyone prepared for possible impact. Ships flew overhead. Defense lines were formed. Jake landed and met the Queen and Lyra at once. We have a chance, he said. But we need to act fast. Valoria stood on the edge of a new challenge. And Jake, once a stranger, was now at the center of the fight to protect it. The massive structure from space was getting closer to Valoria. Though Jake and his team had slowed it down, it was still moving toward the planet. Everyone on Valoria was working day and night to prepare. People stayed calm, but the fear could be seen in their eyes. Queen Alara called her commanders and scientists to the palace. Jake stood beside Lyra, watching the plans being drawn. They had only a few days left. We must find a way to stop it, the Queen said. We cannot allow this machine to reach our world. The scientists explained that the machine was old but powerful. It had weapons hidden deep inside, and no one knew what would happen if it activated. They believed it was left from an ancient war long ago. Jake listened carefully. Then he stepped forward. What if we get inside again? Maybe we can shut it down from the control center. The room became silent. One of the generals frowned. It is too dangerous. The machine is damaged and unstable. Jake looked at the Queen. We slowed it before. Maybe we can stop it completely. I'll go again. Lyra grabbed his arm. You don't have to do this. Jake smiled at her softly. I want to. I need to. Queen Alara nodded slowly. Then we will send a small team. You, Myra, and Thalon will go, but you must be careful. A new ship was prepared quickly, stronger, and faster than the last one. Lyra handed Jake a small crystal before he left. This is a memory crystal, she said. If something happens to you, I want you to know how much you mean to me. Jake held the crystal tightly. I'll come back. The ship flew through space and reached the giant structure again. It looked darker now, more active. Red lights blinked along its surface. The small team landed and entered through the same hatch dot inside. The machine was louder. The air was filled with strange energy. Jake led the way, guided by the map they had saved before. They moved carefully, avoiding broken pathways and flickering lights. Finally, they reached the main control room. It was larger than they remembered, filled with glowing panels and a tall screen showing Valoria getting closer. "We have to stop it now," Jake said. Mira worked on the side panels while Fallon kept watch. Jake studied the main screen, trying to understand the strange symbols. He remembered what Lyra had taught him. He pressed a sequence of buttons, and the machine shook violently. Alarms rang out, and the red lights turned brighter. "What did you do?" Myra asked. "I started the shutdown," Jake replied. "But it needs more power. We have to disable the core." They rushed toward the engine room. On the way, parts of the hallway collapsed behind them. Time was running out. When they reached the core, it was glowing bright orange. Energy flowed through pipes like fire. Jake saw a control ring and ran to it. He inserted the memory crystal Lyra had given him. The machine read the data and slowed down for a moment. Then he pressed the final button. Everything stopped. The lights went out. The humming noise ended. The ship was silent. Back on Valoria. People waited. The Queen stood outside, looking at the sky. Then a message came through. "It's done," Jake's voice said. "The machine is off. Valoria is safe." The city cheered. Queen Alara smiled with relief. Lyra cried softly, holding the crystal pendant around her neck. A day later, Jake and the team returned. The Queen met them at the landing site. She hugged Jake tightly. "You have saved us all," she whispered. Lyra ran to him and didn't let go. "I knew you'd come back." Jake looked around at the people smiling and cheering. He finally felt at home. A week later, a celebration was held. The Queen gave Jake a special honor, naming him a Guardian of Valoria. It was the highest title ever given to someone from another world. During the ceremony, Lyra stood by Jake's side. She held his hand, proud and happy. When it was over, Jake and Lyra walked to the gardens where they had spent so much time. "What will you do now?" Lyra asked. Jake looked at the sky. "I think I'll stay. If that's okay with you," Lyra smiled. "It's more than okay. This is your home now." They stood quietly under the stars, knowing the future was full of new hopes. Valoria was safe. Peace had returned. And a human, once lost in space, had become a hero to an entire world.